My name is Kate Seaborne, and I am a photographer now that I no longer have to go to work. And I made a show over 5 years, really. Started at the point when we all were trying to figure out what we were going to do when we learned about the pandemic. And I had 2 blouses that I had found in a Chicago thrift store when I was a graduate student there in the 70s. And I thought, why don't I unpack them from the tissue and take them in the landscape? And so I tried to make some photographs with them in the landscape, and some of them worked, but most of them were kind of dull and boring. And I was telling a good friend about my efforts to work with the blouses as photographic subjects, and found that she had 2 mannequins that she was prepared to loan me for an extended period, and said, why don't you try the blouses with the mannequins? And I thought, oh, what a great idea, that's terrific. So I had to clean out our garage, which is filled with sailing equipment most of the time, and started to photograph the blouses there. And I think I did an okay job, but I was feeling my way. And this was through the fall of 2020 and into the spring and summer and late fall of 2021. And by the time I worked in the garage with the blouses, really only in September and October of those 2 years, because the light is just right at that point in the garage, I realized that there was something, but I didn't know what I had. It was story, though. There was a story emerging. I just didn't know very much about what the story was. Now, my husband said to me, what do you think girls read, in the 1900s when they were kind of thinking about, middle class, upper middle class girls who might have an opportunity to have a good education and go on? And I discovered to my absolute surprise that there was a huge trove of fiction written for them by women in the period between 1895 and 1912 or 1914, college girl fiction. And it was remarkable because it just gave me so many ideas about what was happening when you arrived at a college as a freshman and you met all these amazing girls and you met some of their faculty, and you would just think, what an amazing place, I'm going to have so many friends. And then you might find that you developed a crush on 1 or 2 or 3 of them. And then eventually, of course, there would be heartbreak because things would happen and that would be that. And so I began to feel my way towards a story. And I kept working in the garage for another year, making more photographs. And then family members who are very involved with Canadian contemporary photography in Eastern Canada helped me put a book together and told me I had to make 10 standalone images that would captivate an audience, but would stand by themselves. And so, yes, Kate, you could use quotes again if you wanted to from the college girl fiction. So I started that project in the fall of 2024 and only had a few weeks of good time in the garage while the light was good to shoot this, but it all came together really fast because I could see a storyline. And I used some quotes that I had saved up and didn't use in the book, and after a little bit of time, it seemed like there really was something there. And then I was very, very lucky to have a wonderful kind of curator slash mentor slash instructor who helped me fine-tune this, and then very lucky to have the print lab and Terry Zott make the prints for me. So that's really the story of this project.